Labyrinth is a dark fantasy full of sinister themes, unforgettable characters, and of course, hardships unnumbered. It's been around for nearly 40 years, and for those who wish there was more lore, well, you know what happens when you make a wish with goblins around. It comes true. Labyrinth Coronation is a delightfully dangerous tale that makes me question everything I thought I knew about how the maze itself works, how the 300-year-old Goblin King Jareth got to be the Goblin King. If the labyrinth is all just a dream, I have many doubts. How it can change reality itself? What happens if you never leave it? And, of course, the most crucial point, how the older, sinister Goblin King before Jareth made all of this possible, because history, even in the labyrinth, repeats itself, 13 hours at a time. But first, I want to set the scene. When taking Labyrinth the movie at face value, it seems to do that thing that many movies back then did, where all these dangers untold, friends and foes and challenges along the way, cue the mystic harp music, we're all in the character's head. This whole labyrinth, along with the tight tights Goblin King himself, were all of Sarah's own making to puzzle out and try on, growing up and making sense of new emotions and attentions. As Sarah takes back her power, the Goblin King turns back into an owl, the one presumably from the start of the film, and flies away, maybe to spy out another victim for another maze. But just how does that make sense if we assume this maze was all in Sarah's head, crafted from everything she held dear in her bedroom? Well, there is more lore to the labyrinth than the movie and the book that was released with it. Jim Henson's Labyrinth Coronation series from 2018 takes place as Sarah is trying to rescue Toby from Jareth in the maze. The story itself is Jareth recounting to baby Toby the tale of another prisoner and baby in the labyrinth, presumably himself and his mother, Maria. His story starts in the Republic of Venice in 1797. This whole scene feels exactly like the illusion of the masquerade that Jareth throws for Sarah. And it turns out that this one is an illusion too, although not in a fey magic way, in a soul-crushing mortal betrayal way. You see, Jareth's supposed father, a sharp-featured nobleman, Lord Albert Titan, see the devastating family resemblance? And Jareth's mother Maria, an artist and presumably a countess, are in attendance. Unwelcome news makes its way to the party, causing Albert to turn tail and retreat to his abode, locking Maria out. He has every intention of abandoning her and sending their baby son to an orphanage or death, for he has not been entirely forthcoming with his pretend wife. He is, well, not ashamed to have trotted around Europe with a fun girl masquerading as his wife this past while, but is absolutely certain it will not make him look respectable in the eyes of his controlling father. So he tries to cut ties and run. Maria grabs the baby and makes her own run for it, pursued by Albert's hitman. Mortals can be so cruel too. I will mention that Albert has been having visions of goblins for a while now, a sort of mental pressure. He has told Maria about this in a way, and she, an artist, humored them, I think. So the goblins have been watching him. They think he looks regal and would make an excellent new king for their realm, the world of the labyrinth. This is to paint the picture that yes, like in the movie, the goblins are waiting in the wings, watching for any sign to make a move, a wish. And this he does, as Maria is literally running for her life and the baby's future. Albert wishes for the goblins to take his son now. But because Maria is holding the babe tightly, both fall into the water and down, down, down into the labyrinth, where we catch a glimpse of the old ancient Goblin King before he ejects Maria from the maze. And this is where things get interesting for our purposes, the origins of the Goblin King and how the labyrinth actually works. Because it's not all just in a person's head. This labyrinth is more of a multiplayer situation. And like the Matrix, if you expire here, you expire everywhere. Back in the real world, we learn from Albert that the goblins have been talking with him, wanting to make him their new king. They said their king, he's ancient, dying. They have to find an heir or there'll be war. An injection of good blood. That's how they put it. And I should note, Albert's family is obsessed with preserving the line. Maria, desperate to undo Albert's wish, begs for her child, and she is brought back into the labyrinth, where she properly meets the Goblin King, who is obviously not Jareth, but is this majestic owl, a shape taken from the movie, cloaked in black feathers. He looks old, weary, but more on that in a bit. For now, he's making the same bargain type with Maria that Jareth made with Sarah, although much less charismatically. This king relies on brute force and subservience. You have 13 hours in which to solve the labyrinth before your child becomes my child forever. And you, Maria, should you fail to reach the castle at the center of my kingdom, you too shall be my slave, he screeches, flashing sharp, pointed teeth with an ancient aura of menace. I can't help thinking that this weary owl looks like a painting we've seen of Albert's father. Now, Sarah's maze was formed from trinkets, games, stories, and experiences she had in real life. From the literal wooden game Labyrinth to the music box doll that she was dressed as, to the Goblin King himself, the statue in her room, the Wizard of Oz book, etc. Maria's maze is also based on her experiences, which are a lot different than Sarah's. Remember, she is a maid masquerading as a countess in a tumultuous time in Venetian history. She's an artist and has quite the curious imagination. So in hers, there's a shipyard from Venice where the figureheads all shout warnings. That mermaid she was so keen on painting in real life turns out to be a cunning fey creature that baits Maria into becoming dinner. Maria is rescued by our first ally, a conflicted knight in bronze armor who is trying to become the dread bandit Scubin, a reversal of the popular work Don Quixote, something Maria then would probably be very familiar with. There are condoliers that intentionally steer passengers wrong. Instead of lipstick like Sarah, Maria has her artist chalk. Watching the movie, it's easy to assume that the whole labyrinth is a dream or fantasy of Sarah's. However, in this older labyrinth, it's not as certain. Maria is gaining headway in the labyrinth, so the Goblin King cheats. He gets into Albert's head and projects Albert's own nightmares into the labyrinth for Maria to overcome. But that's not from inside my head. I've never seen anything like it before. How could I be dreaming it? And this is interesting how the maze works. She grasps swiftly that the labyrinth echoes the melodies of her mind. Then again, she only hears half the music. She thinks she's dreaming. And what fills her monkey brain more than anything is the man who ruined her. So the Owl King uses Albert's mind and memories to stop Maria. Example, Maria knows she's never seen the Titan family tomb, and Albert, who was traumatized by the place as a child, never spoke of it to her. So how could she be dreaming or seeing it here? She knows something is amiss. Then Maria realizes that she can shape the labyrinth, drawing things into existence with her chalk. For example, her drawing of her lover's face becomes a stone monument. It's not a dream. But real or not, look, I can shape it. Henceforth, she becomes known as a magician in this maze. Here's a movie callback I appreciated. Maria's stone-faced statue gets destroyed, fragmented, and in doing so, it becomes that stone illusion of Jareth's face from the movie. But it's not actually Jareth, it's Albert, as we now know. Nice touch. This also hints that Maria's actions in the labyrinth have shaped future iterations of the labyrinth. It's not just one person's dream. Now, we know from Sarah's labyrinth that it reflects her real-life situation to some degree. The same is true for Maria's labyrinth, but because there are so many more minds involved, the situation is more complex, more dangerous. We are getting into revolution and class warfare. The goblins, above all, must be entertained. This is something Jareth, does very well with all his musical numbers and generally lacks rules. The Owl King, however, is struggling to do this. Says one of his council, "We haven't had a musical number in 200 years. While it's a cute movie callback, it also shows the lack of joy under old Owlboy's rule. Later on, we learn that there's active rebellion against the rules of sobriety and standards of cleanliness imposed by the tyrant. This Owl's Labyrinth is struggling with the same things as Maria's real world might be. Remember, this story started in the Republic of Venice in 1797. Now, the Republic of Venice ended in 1797, if that helps give more context and shape to the story. Change is coming both there and in the maze. The Owl King cannot risk a purge of the court. There's already rebellion in the air. I am old and unpopular, no use denying it. But they'll be grateful for me in the end. This will see to that. It is here that we learn that he has less than paternal intentions for the new baby, and a similar lack of paternal care for his own son. Yes, the anointed Gobfin. I will not spoil this for you should you choose to read it. This Owl King has an heir to the Goblin throne, but always banks on their failure, calculates for it. Probably because this old owl plans on ruling forever, never dying, and this new baby is just the life force he needs to make that happen. but the Goblin King Prince points out that the king is afraid of his subjects. You make such a show of hating them, the goblins, all their chaos and lunacy, but I know the truth. You're scared of your own subjects, you rotten old coward. And this fear shows out through and through in this version of the maze. Everything is perfectly ordered. Compared to Sarah's, there are a lot of rules, a lot less laughter, and no uncalculated chaos. This seems to be more of a reflection of the owl than of Maria. There is, however, a brewing war of goblins against their king, which is the perfect chance to say hello to a new friend. Good day. And we finally get to stop in for a cuppa and sandwiches. Meeting the Mr. and Mrs., well, Ma and Pa, and the whole worm family was such a cool moment in this story. But of course, like everything in this maze, it's more than it seems. Sybil is a feisty worm who is eager to leave home and live up to her name. And lead the goblin resistance. Yes, it is the smallest member of the group with the biggest heart again, like Sir Didymus. Rather than risk open rebellion, this Owl King seeks to quash any dissent by becoming all-powerful, by taking the life left in the lifespan of the infant for himself. The Labyrinth book that came out when the movie did mention Jareth using Toby's young blood to refresh his as well, so this is in theme. Unlike Jareth, who is kinda just bored, the Owl King will not listen to advisors or delegate because he is too afraid. He has complete control over the labyrinth, and a slick control room full of gears too, which he uses to throw Maria another one of Albert's memories in death trap form. This time, a high-class childhood nursery, complete with an overbearing father whose pop quiz will be the end of Maria, who cannot answer the questions because she's not educated and was a laundry maid. Fortunately, it's Scubbin with the answer. Every human heart has its own maze to conquer. The only colony that matters is the labyrinth. Which, is this another hint to how the labyrinth works in the world or poetry? You decide. It wouldn't be the labyrinth without a dream masquerade, because yes, both Sarah's and now Maria's are confirmed dreams in this world. Dreams are different than existing in the labyrinth, it seems, and both Owl and Goblin Kings have dominion over them. Says Jareth to Toby, "Oh, come, don't you want to watch Sarah's little dream?" The Owl King decides that if the mind of her husband cannot trap her, perhaps his touch shall. He makes a construct of Albert to physically, eliminate Maria with a knife while both are in a dream of the last party they attended together. He thinks, now that she is perfectly distracted and without that daft little chalk of hers, she dies. She has served a greater purpose, just as you did. The human child will provide me with the strength I need to deal with the goblins myself. I will rule this kingdom alone, forever, my ordered, efficient labyrinth. If a life ends in the labyrinth, it seems it ends everywhere. Fortunately, not all is as ordered as the Owl King would like. Construct Albert recognizes his son and ultimately refuses to eliminate Maria, instead warning her that the very fate of the labyrinth itself rests on my warning. The Owl King does not seek an heir to his throne. He keeps the child as a means to steal his energy, his youth. The Owl King means to use our son so that he may live and rule forever. I feel like this is the labyrinth itself seeking Maria's aid against its current ruler, using Construct Albert as a conduit. This means that the maze itself is alive in a way and is not a construct of any one dreamer or king or combo thereof. Like Sarah, Maria breaks out of her dream. Unlike Sarah, Maria does not save the baby in time. Because, and this is one of the saddest moments for me, the baby itself takes away 1 hour of her time. Okay, the Owl King literally forces his baby hand on the clock face, but I feel like this is a memory Jareth would regret. Then again, he's done the same thing himself to Sarah when everything was a piece of cake for her. Fast forward in Sarah's labyrinth, she's defeated Jareth, who returns as a little owl, resumes his Magic Man form, and continues to tell Maria's story. Because she does end up thwarting the Owl King's plan, in her own way. But time had already changed outside the pocket of the labyrinth as the clock struck 13. The real world was altered forever, and she saw what was likely the present and future now there. Her lover likely dead, her own miserable, impoverished future with her child, and then her sons as scary granddad's new heir, devoid of all emotion. She will not accept this. So, rather than returning to it, she enters the life-sucking machine holding her baby, forever changing the labyrinth by doing so. Everything fell into place as it should, or shouldn't. There is no right or wrong in my labyrinth, says Jareth. Now we are left with quite the conundrum. It's not so simple as Maria's baby becoming the next Goblin King. You see, Jareth arrived in the Labyrinth, fully formed, ready to rule, not long after this. So what happened to the baby? It's actually never been given a name in this whole story. Jareth gives a few non-answers. Maybe Jareth is the nameless baby, all grown up. Maybe Jareth is the old Owl King, possessed in this body. Maria's plan may be failing. Perhaps Maria used the last bit of her chalk to draw Jareth. Maybe the baby is Hoggle, grizzled and disgruntled from years spent wandering around the maze. Maybe he is the labyrinth itself, stitched together, manifested from bits and pieces of its own living memory. Or the baby went home, like Sarah and Toby, and there is no more to their story. But I think we need more, and the story delivers. This Jareth, while an unreliable narrator, has a soft spot and a duty to entertain, be it goblin masses or his own mother. We actually find he's been keeping both Maria and the rebuilt construct of Albert in the labyrinth for the past 300 years. They are all happy and content, forever at a masquerade ball. Forever a happy family. Because, as Maria says, sometimes fantasy is better than reality. I love the idea of Jareth being created by the maze, for the maze, to see to the maze. There was unease and restlessness bordering on rebellion, and he seems the perfect solution for the soulless realm. A splash of unpredictability and music in a tight-fisted governed realm. Light and love, like Maria, who changed it all. A babe with the power. I also love the idea of the labyrinth being a canvas or battleground of wills, the newcomer versus the so-called ruler, aka the labyrinth in its human-ish form. This labyrinth story paints a completely different picture than Sarah's story. Gone are the awkward and uncomfortable coming-of-age moments. Maria has other concerns to confront in the maze, and it delivers. Her Owl King looks suspiciously like Albert's overbearing law and ordered father, and that's likely no coincidence. All told, this presents a kinder view of Jareth. Well, the focus is less saucy, more revolutionary. Depends on what those in the maze are struggling with. Coming of age like Sarah, following your heart amid a revolution like Maria. I wonder what's next in this seemingly isolated pocket of a Fae realm. Now, whether you consider this canon or not is up to you. I've always been obsessed with this movie since watching it way too young, so any story, media, or heck tarot deck that help expand the world to me is amazing. I will never get enough Labyrinth, and this new old Goblin King concept just sets my brain afire. But what do you think? Has this fundamentally changed how the Labyrinth works to you, or built upon what you've already thought? Will these themes be present in the sequel? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for meeting me down in the underground for another Labyrinth deep dive. Subscribe so you won't miss the next video, crawling out of the cauldron quite soon. Stay spooky!